Thank you, Joe. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday press conference after our Tuesday council meetings. I've got a few announcements I want to start with, just some information I think would be good for the community to know. We've got cold weather heading back in tomorrow is my understanding, and the Golden Triangle Regional Homeless Coalition in partnership with the City of Columbus Outreach Program will open the warming station at Pruitt Park Recreational Center, which is at the back of the park behind VFW. The facility will open from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. And will stay open until the cold weather passes. For questions, you can call the Golden Triangle Regional Homeless Coalition hotline. That number is 662-549-2643, 662-549-6243. The Community Benefit Committee is also asking people to remember to keep adding canned goods to the different food little centers around the town and county. You can see them in different locations. You can go to their Facebook page, also the Community Benefit Committee, to learn more about that. Neil Schaefer's team will be meeting with us in the coming days, probably starting next week, to discuss the results of the survey for Pruitt Park. And they will be releasing that information to the public very soon. And we'll have more information about that in the coming days. Wagner Engineering, who is the firm that is working with us on our ARPA funds, they are meeting as we speak and throughout the day with members of the Board of Supervisors to discuss opportunities where the city and county can potentially work together on some projects that would be part of our ARPA spending. So we're excited about that. As I've mentioned many times, we're eager to partner with our friends at the county as often as we can. We think that benefits all city and county citizens the more that we can do that. So that's going on. A couple of other things I wanted to mention. The community benefit, this is very important for folks who have not been vaccinated. This Saturday, January the 22nd, from 12 to 2 p.m., in the parking lot at the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, they'll have a drive-through free vaccination, ages 12 and older only. Ages 12 and older only, free vaccinations. You can reach out to the Community Benefit Committee if you have more questions about that. They are easily found on the Facebook page, or you can call the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office. Let's see, other thing I wanted to mention is exciting news for Columbus. I don't want to lose this because this has my information on it. But starting on February the 4th through April the 23rd, 2022, there will be an exhibit at downtown at the Arts Council, the Rosenzweig Center here on the corner. It's called Mr. Pruitt's Possum Town, Photographing Trouble and Resilience in the American South. It'll be on display from February the 4th to April the 23rd, as I mentioned earlier. This exhibit, with approximately 100 images, including audio and video recordings, period Mississippi music, and Pruitt artifacts, provides extensive access to these important images and the stories behind them, and will encourage conversations as we continue to strive for deeper understandings of the role of culture and history. Now, the important thing to remember about this is this book is coming out this week, and it is being published, if I have all my information with me, by Mississippi native Berkeley Hudson. He is a professor emeritus at the University of Missouri, and he received several grants to make this possible. The premiere is a world premiere here in Columbus, and then it'll travel around the country. If you are interested in this, today, Mr. Hudson he is going to be in Jackson, and at noon, you can watch on Facebook Live as he talks from the two museums, History and Civil Rights in Jackson, Mississippi. and he will do a presentation about Mr. Pruitt's photographs that were taken here in Columbus during the early and middle 20th century. This is a very important book. As I said, it was published this week with the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, where these photographs are now housed. And Mr. Hudson has been working on this project for quite some time. And we think that it's going to bring a lot of attention to Columbus. And so we really encourage people to reach out and find out more about this. We're very excited that he's going to be in town. And Columbus is fortunate to have the premiere here. Let's see, I think that's all of the special announcements that I have. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the council meeting last night. The council did vote to begin looking into the possibility of hiring someone to lobby for us in Jackson. I think this is a good idea. Other municipalities have been doing this for quite some time in counties. What this will do is help us, especially during this time of year with the legislators, is to have someone there that focuses on the needs of Columbus and helps us get that message to our state representatives. Now, this will not be a full-time position. This will be, and we're just beginning to look into it. The council voted last night for us to begin to look into hiring somebody for that position. So I'm sure we'll be reaching out to professional lobbyists that are out there that already have a lot of experience in this and see how we can negotiate a contract with them to help the city. Some other things that we talked about last night. Well, we did go into executive session, so I think this is probably a good time to let our city attorney come up and address the discussions that happened in executive session. Jeff.
Thank you, Mayor Gaskin. We had two items of executive session. The first one involved the prospective sale of municipally owned property. The city had an offer on the Rollins and Kriegler building. We also have an appraiser that we engaged last year, and we're still waiting on the appraisal's report. The prospective buyer had an appraisal. The council didn't feel comfortable, and the mayor, I guess, until we had another appraiser report so that we could make sure we weren't giving the property away for too small a value. And we're going to go back to the prospective buyer with perhaps some additional terms related to parking. But they didn't take action to do anything other than call the appraiser and find out what his timeline is and see if we can't get him moved ahead. The other item involved a personnel matter involving the administrative department at City Hall, and the council really didn't take any action on that. I think they're going to get together and talk some more with the mayor about this and perhaps interview some employees that have been hired. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, we are going to call probably a special meeting of the City Council for tomorrow. You probably noted in last night's meeting that the council did not approve the docket of claims, and we have to do that quickly. There's some bills and some things that need to be paid. Vice Mayor Mickens had trouble viewing his and asked for more time to review. One of the things that we're trying to do too is make sure that we're getting that information out in a timely fashion to everybody and in a coordinated effort, because it's important that everybody has plenty of time to review the information, not just the council, but the public as well. We also will talk about the positions that we're trying to hire right now. We had announced at the end of last week that we had two candidates coming in this week to interview in person for the COO position. One of those candidates will not be able to come until next week. We also had someone who was going to try to come in this week to interview for CFO, and they have pulled their name from consideration now. So we will be interviewing one person. The committee has voted to not put those names out to the public just yet. As I mentioned before, I understand the community's interest in knowing. We are trying to keep the privacy of these individuals in place right now because they have current jobs that their employer may not know that they've applied for these positions. So we're trying to weigh that along with the public's right to know. And so there'll be more information coming forward on that. With that, can y'all think of any other specific issue that we need to address before I open it up for questions?
Maybe the Airbnb?
Yes, there was some concerns about an individual in town that has been operating an Airbnb from property she owns in the city. And there was discussion about whether or not our laws allow that in the city. There are other municipalities who've had this discussion as well. The council decided to table that issue until we could gather some more information. They were very understanding of the concerns of the neighbors in the area who are not aware that this person was using a Airbnb in the city. We also became aware that there's other operations within the city for Airbnb. This is something that's popular across the country, kind of like the food truck ordinance and things like that. As things evolve in the community, you have to look and see how you can potentially be supportive, but also follow the concerns of communities in their neighborhood. Again, I cannot stress enough how concerned the council was about the concerns of the citizens in this particular neighborhood. And I think by the next council meeting, we'll be back with more information to discuss the potential outcome of having Airbnbs in Columbus. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Brian?
Can you give some background on the Rollins Kriegler building and how long it's been out there and kind of how we got to where we are today?
Yes, and I'll let Jeff speak to this as well too. The city has owned that property for 7 or 8 years. I think it was purchased for $135,000. It's never really been used for any particular thing. I think they used it as a haunted house one year at Halloween. I think primarily they bought it for the parking, potentially for the Trotter Convention Center, and it's been used for that. And then, so over those years, there's been no work done on the building. And so you have some issues with the roof and some other things. And there's a local business person who was very interested and has been for quite some time in purchasing that and opening a business there. And so we've been in the process. I think it is early in September when Jeff and I went before the council, making them aware of the interest, and they voted to move forward on getting the appraisals, and that's kind of slowed things down. And so that's kind of where we are on that. There's, interest obviously among the council it would be nice to have the tax income that would come from a business going in there. We're also very pleased that we have local business people who are interested in, expanding, business operations within the city.
And if I understood you correctly earlier, the concern right now is that the offer they made or the appraisal they gave you was too low?
Yes. And we only had one, and we're not required to really have any, are we, Jeff, as far as?
No, normally when a municipality sells surplus real property, you would have 2 appraisals, but the exception to that is if it's being sold for commercial or industrial purposes. And then we can deviate from the normal process. And the council has more discretion in what they can accept for the property. Again, I think it was the consensus that we sure don't want to sell it for less than its value, and the concern was just to make sure that the first appraisal was fair. And that's the reason why when you sell it the normal way, you have to, so that you make sure that the municipality doesn't give an unlawful donation to some private person.
Yes, and yeah, the council was in agreement for that. That was a 6-0 vote to get another, a second appraisal. Also, the council is interested in discussing maintaining some of that property for parking that the city would have, and the owner of the building could also use it for customer parking. There's a little spot to the side of that property, and that would have been appraised in the original, and so they want to look at, have discussions about, you know, the city possibly maintaining a small portion of that parking area.
So if you sold it, you wouldn't sell the whole parcel, you would hold back part of it for parking, or would there just be an agreement that the city could use it for parking?
I think the understanding from what the council was saying last night, that they would be interested in trying to maintain a parcel of it to the side.
Maintain ownership
Of that, yeah, to maintain ownership of that, not the part that's right in front of the building is obvious parking, but there's a side area there. And they would like to have that discussion, that the city would maintain that. You know, they're also, you know, somebody made the statement that, you know, people are used to using that area for trotter events. And, you know, they wanted to make sure that, you know, people, you know, didn't try to park there and get towed and those kinds of things. They just want to make sure that we've dotted every I and crossed every T on the topic of that property.
And can you say how much the appraisal that they gave you was?
$75,000.
And can you say who the people are who are looking at it?
Yeah, we can say, I was just double checking. Again, we try to err on keeping people's information private when we can, knowing that it's important for the public to know. It is Doug Pelham, who owns the restaurant above it. Zachary's is very interested in it.
We don't want to say what the offer was, though, because that's kind of defeats the purpose if there happened to be another buyer out there for them to know what the offer is.
Yes,
The appraisal he came to you with was $75,000.
correct. And we're waiting on a second. And if the person that's watching that we've asked for this appraisal, if you could hurry up, we would appreciate that. You live in Starkville, you know who you are. Get us that appraisal.
We've got a Facebook question about COVID in the schools, Mayor, and it says, could you address the COVID issues within the schools? And is there a plan to help the schools? Which I know that's not a city question, but could you just talk about how the city involved in that?
Well, I mean, we haven't been directly involved with any of the decisions that the school system makes about how they're handling COVID in the schools. My personal thought is that the city is always here to be as helpful as we can in any way with the public schools. From what my understanding is from the experts in the area, that it's important that we try to keep the schools open. I know that there's some schools this week because of a large number of COVID cases, not only with students but with teachers. So it's a very delicate issue, and these are unprecedented times where when people don't agree, everybody doesn't agree on the process. So that's what I would say to that.
If you could break down the council, you have a plan to help this session?
That's what they said last night. They would like to have somebody down there for this session. So yeah, we'll be looking at it as quickly as possible. Finances are always an issue. Because this is not a full-time person or full new position. You know, it's not wise to create a new position that was not budgeted. But we do have funds and accounts that we can use, and it wouldn't be a huge amount of money. They referenced a lobbyist that the redevelopment authority hired for this session, and they paid that person $30,000. So that was an amount that was mentioned. But we didn't discuss how much would be paid. We're going to be investigate that right away, but we'll keep everybody posted on that.
The last question I got off of Facebook was, now that the final rules have come out regarding the American Rescue Plan, does that change anything in terms of the city's consideration of pay raises or increase in pay?
All those things are still on the table. And we'll be working with those and discussing those with the folks that are advising us on ARPA and how the best way to use it. So yes, all those things are still on the table for discussion.
The warming center, you said would be open 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. Is that starting tonight or tomorrow night?
I believe it's tomorrow night.
And could you explain again which building that is out at Pruitt Park?
Yes, it is, this building, it's a metal building that is on the back side of, the east side of Pruitt Park. And it's, if you know where the VFW building is out there, it's behind that. So if people have questions, they can stop in the front office there or call the number that I mentioned, and they can get exact directions, but it's to the back of the park.
So is this the same building that they used a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, same building, and we used it last year too, I believe.
Anything else? That's all I have to do, Mayor.
All right, thank you, everybody.